Welcome back to Explorium Academy. In this video, we're going to be going through our documentation. Okay, so right now I have pulled up the Explorium documentation that you can find right on the Explorium website. This documentation covers everything from how to access each of our API endpoints, to the recommended workflow, to examples, to how to navigate your admin page, or even error handling and rate limits. And I do recommend that after watching this video, you take some time to explore our documentation yourself and really go into more detail in each of the different aspects. But today we're just going to do a quick overview on some of the important aspects of our documentation and how to get you started on using the Explorium data. So first, what I think is really important is the recommended workflow and how to use each of our endpoints. And you can find this in the quick starts part of our documentation. There's a lot of information here on how to get started, why use Explorium, how to access your API key and create an Explorium account, and so on. But after you do that on your own time, you can find this part here that is our recommended workflow. And our recommended workflow is pretty simple. And the main thing that you should remember is that you should first do our match, fetch, and statistics endpoints. And then after that, you can access our enrichments and events endpoints. And this is because in our match and fetch endpoints, this is where you put in different parameters or company names and so on, and you will receive an Explorium ID. And with those Explorium IDs, whether it's a prospect ID or a business ID, you can then use those IDs to enrich further information from our enrichment endpoints. So now going into some of the specifics, we can access the business endpoints here on the menu on the left-hand side. And you can see that the first three endpoints that are shown are the match, fetch, and business statistics. What business statistics does is it essentially will give you different statistics on the total addressable market or different metrics that you were looking for in terms of the companies in the ICP that you were searching. But the match and fetch endpoints are where you get the IDs that I mentioned previously. The match endpoint specifically gives you a singular ID for a specific company that you are interested in. So say I want to look up Apple. I can put Apple into the match endpoint and it will give me the Explorium ID for Apple. On the other hand, fetch will give you many different IDs for a general category of businesses. For example, if I want to find businesses that have certain firmographic bands, whether it's employee count, revenue range, and so on, I can put those parameters into the fetch endpoint and it can give me all businesses that meet these parameters. And then again, once I have these IDs, we can move forward and you can use business events, which you can find here, or you can do, and this would be the fetch business events. We also have other event endpoints that you can use to set up webhooks to monitor different events in real time. Or we have business enrichments, which you can do here, firmographic, technographics, and so on. And you can find all of our data offerings in our data catalog. And then similarly, we have the same thing for our prospect endpoints. In the same manner as business, we have to use the match, fetch, or statistics endpoints first. But there is something important here that I forgot to mention is the autocomplete endpoint, and this endpoint is meant to help you find the different syntax for our parameters easier. For example, if you wanted to use industry for one of our parameters, there are certain different industries that we accept as valid parameters, but autocomplete takes maybe an incomplete phrase or a similar industry and we'll match it to the closest industry that we have in our database. And back to how to use prospects, similarly you can use match to find a specific prospect, whether you have an ID or whether you have an email, a LinkedIn URL, or their name. And then fetch is, again, when you want to get multiple IDs for a general group of prospects. And then again, once you get their IDs, you have access to all of the enrichments using these IDs, whether it's prospect events or specific prospect enrichments. And then if you go further down, you can see that there's error handling and rate limits, which I'm not going to go into now, but I will touch on in a later video. And something more that I wanted to touch on is if you have any questions on our documentation at all, feel free to reach out to our Explorium support, or you can chat with our chatbot here on the bottom and ask any question. This is gonna be very simple, but like, how do I use the match businesses endpoint? Oops. And you could do that here. And our chatbot, which has access to all of our documentation, should give you a very thorough and detailed response, and then also tell you where to look for in our documentation page. Our documentation website will be linked in the video below. And again, I highly recommend that after this video, you take some time to really look at this in more detail and learn it the best you can.